welcome to the podcast. This week we're going to be reviewing our game against Arsenal on Monday night and looking ahead to Liverpool's game against Aston Villa. I'm joined by Kieran and Paul Jones. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
So let's start with our game against Arsenal then. We'll start with Kieran. What did you make of our performance on Monday?
I was absolutely made up, Grace. I was, terrific performance. I thought for most of the game, we dominated it. Thought the midfield three were excellent. There's a proper dominant performance. But once again, we play so well, and it's just one defensive error that lets us down. They beat the press, fair play to them, but we're left with a situation of being 5-on-4. And at home, I thought, bit disappointing. Obviously, Robbo gives it to Lacazette, but I thought that was the only negative from the game, just that one defensive error. Apart from that, we were fantastic. Immediate response from the lads, going forward. Two quick goals straight after each other. And yeah, completely dominated the games, made up against an Arsenal side that, started the season really, really well. So, 3 points, 3 wins out of 3. All good stuff.
Yeah, and what did you make of it, Paul?
Yeah, I thought, listen, make no bones about it, I thought it was a massive, massive win. I think following on from the result on Sunday as well, down the road, it was imperative that Liverpool kept that momentum going. I thought Arsenal made it very, very difficult for us. But yet, having said that, I thought we dominated for large parts of the game. I know that, a lot of Arsenal fans will probably think that if Lacazette goes on and scores when he goes through in the second half to make it 2-2, that potentially it turns into a different game. But for me, I just felt that Liverpool were that dominant, and I'd already showed in one setback following the Andy Robertson mistake that Liverpool were in the mood to go and get them 3 points on Monday night, and they done everything in their power from, I think it was about 140 seconds after Arsenal went in front that we equalised. So I just feel that the game, the way it panned out, we were that dominant that, even if Lacazette had equalised, there was still plenty of time left for Liverpool to go on and win the game. And, if you look at the amount of chances we created in the last 10, 15 minutes, even at 2-1, I think that we'd have probably still gone on to win the game, regardless of Lacazette scoring or not. So really, really positive performance. I thought Arsenal came and played their part, but as Mikel Arteta said, I think we were just too strong for them in various departments throughout the pitch.
And as you mentioned, Arteta actually said after the game about our high pressing. Obviously, we've got a game coming up against them in the EFL Cup. What do you think Klopp will do? Do you think he'll stick to the high pressing, or do you think maybe he'll go for a different tactic? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's probably one of them, because it's going to be different teams. So, we're going to have maybe 9-10 changes, I would suggest, from the league side. But the thing with Liverpool is, and what we discussed about the Lincoln game, is that it doesn't matter who puts on that red shirt. It's still the same identity. It's still Liverpool Football Club. And likewise, I think that'll be the same with Arsenal. They'll still have their style. Of that crazy thing that they do from kickoffs where from goal kicks where the goalkeeper ends up passing it backwards. From goal kicks, I find that crazy. But Liverpool dealt with that pretty well. There was a couple of times where we forced the error and we won possession. If not in their third, it was in the middle third. We picked up any long balls from when it was played out wide to Tini, especially in the second half. So I think that Liverpool will keep that style of play that we played on Monday night, albeit with a different set of players that play.
Yeah, and also you mentioned Andy Robertson. I'll put this question to Kieran. So obviously he made the mistake which led to the Arsenal's goal, but then he got a goal himself. What did you think about Robertson's goal, and how do you think he made up for his mistake?
Oh, absolutely. I think he'll be the first one to put his hand up and say, yeah, he made a massive error there. But yeah, to pick his head up, to be in that position for obviously Trent gets the ball on the right, and the way our fullbacks have worked over the last couple of years have been nothing short of sensational. So not just to get in that position, to bring that ball down, there's still a lot of work to do there for someone who doesn't get in front of goal that often. So to just dink it over the keeper was fantastic. Yeah, I thought he had a good game. It was just that one mistake, but I thought everyone had a great game.
Any standout players for you, Paul?
I think, again, we had a similar conversation a couple of weeks ago in the Chelsea game where we struggled to pick out standout players as such because it was such a team performance. I think, Mane was, again, one of the standout head and shoulders above the rest of the team for the chances that he creates, the work rate he puts in. I know there was a lot of talk that he maybe should have been sent off. For me, I think a yellow was probably justified. I think if he'd have got a red, it'd have been a soft red. It was a strong yellow, if that makes sense. I think Virgil van Dijk, again, defensively was absolutely outstanding. And I've got to give a little bit of credit to Joe Gomez because, he come back into the team after a little niggling injury. And I thought, again, he was absolutely outstanding. Let's not forget, over on that left-hand side for Arsenal, they have Aubameyang, who is one of the better attacking players in the Premier League. They've got Lacazette down the middle, who again is a strong player going forward, who can both double up onto that side of Joe Gomez and Alexander-Arnold. And I thought Joe Gomez dealt with that very, very well. So I suppose if you wanted me to name one, I know I've just named a few, but for me, I would have looked at Joe Gomez's performance, who I was most happy with considering the circumstances he was left with.
Yeah, completely. I just want to touch on this, does the fact that Van Dijk is such a key figure in our side, I know that Arteta mentioned as well that he was hard work for his players to deal with. Does it concern you that if he did get injured, what would we do?
I think when you've got a player as good as that, whether it be Van Dijk or Mane or somebody like that, you do worry. If we look back at 12 months ago, just over 12 months ago, the opening day of the season or the opening night, and 10 minutes in or whatever it was, our star goalkeeper goes off injured, and the mood around the stadium was, oh no, what's happened? But Adrian stepped in. Kept, I think it was about 10 clean sheets. So I think where we're at the moment, yes, obviously we would miss Van Dijk massively, as would anybody. But I'm at the point now where we're probably in the best state in terms of the squad and those players that can come in that we've been in a long time. So whilst I would worry if Van Dijk got a long-term injury, of course I would. I don't think I'd be as worried as I was maybe this time last year.
Yeah, because we've added depth to the squad, I think we'll be in a better position, hopefully, to deal with that. So just quickly, I just want to do a quick transfer news roundup. Obviously, Ryan Brewster's left the club. What do we think about that, Kieran? What do you make of Ryan Brewster?
I mean, for me, I'm a little bit disappointed. I've always been a fan of Brewster. Certainly, last year or so, obviously he had to go on loan to Swansea in the Championship, but when he went there, he just seemed to be banging them in for fun. So I was thinking to myself, yeah, maybe he could stick around, but I think it's got to be just the best for the best decision for the player. If he's not going to get actual game time around with us, then for him he has to go on loan. He has to be out there playing football. So although I am disappointed, I can totally understand him leaving the club.
Yeah, I agree. What do you think about that, Paul?
Yeah, it's a difficult one because I suppose we've got to look in terms of what his standing is within the squad. And for me, obviously he's behind Firmino for that number 9 spot. Potentially he's behind Minamino for that number 9 spot. And the reason I say that is because Minamino is the one who played there in the League Cup tie last week, and potentially will play there against Arsenal this week. So I think as Kieran said, I think we've also got to respect that, footballers want to play football, or the majority of footballers want to play football. So, if he knows that he's maybe 3rd or maybe even 4th choice for that central number 9 spot, he probably feels that it's a good move to go out and get some minutes and get some football under his belt. So, it's a difficult one because you never want to see young players leave because the young players are the future of your club. But you've got to look at it from both angles. And I think that, especially if we can insert a little clause in there somewhere that, you know, he can come back, or if needed, or whatever that may be along those lines, then you know, it could be a good piece of business all round.
Yeah, definitely. And Lloris Karius has completed a move to Union Berlin on loan. Do you think after his slip up in the Europa League, that was the end of his career at Liverpool? Kieran, I'll ask you.
Yeah, I think I think it was the final in Kiev. Was for me the last straw. I mean, I think certainly from what we've seen from Alisson anyway, he's obviously our number one. And to me, if you left the choice between the two sort of number twos, if you like, Adrian and Karius, I'd choose Adrian all day. But yeah, it's not been the same for him since you know, that Champions League final. I know he took a lot of abuse on Twitter, and it was absolutely ridiculous the abuse he got for it. But yeah, we've got to go with the players that'll win us games. And for me, he's going to be third choice behind them two. You know, the right decision is for him to you know, leave the club.
Paul, do you think we'll ever see Karius in a Liverpool shirt again?
I hope not. And I mean, you know, I mean that in the nicest possible way. No, I don't actually mean it in the nicest possible way. I hope we never see him in a Liverpool shirt again. I think, you know, he was a young kid who come over, and, you know, he come to a massive club. It's a massive step up from Mainz to Liverpool. And let's not forget that before the Champions League final, you know, he didn't really cover himself in glory. I thought he made a couple of mistakes in the semi-final away leg over in Rome. There was another couple of games where he just didn't look confident. And for me, you know, without sounding nasty, I don't know if he's a goalkeeper. I think he's more akin to a catwalk model. You know, I've seen his Instagram, and he loves to post with all his, you know, his new shirts and his new coats and all the rest of it. So, you know, that's fine if that's what he wants to do, but he's not good enough for Liverpool Football Club. I have to say, Kieran, I don't agree with any of the abuse he got on Twitter. You know, that for me, giving personal abuse is wrong. I agree with you on that. But I just think that he's never going to be good enough for Liverpool Football Club. What I will say is, you know, and hindsight's a wonderful thing, that if he didn't make them mistakes, would we have ever got Alisson? Possibly not. You know, and Karius may have still been our number one. So, you know, whilst it is painful that it happened in a European Cup final and we didn't get number 6 12 months earlier, you know, you have to look and go, well, okay, you know, everything happens for a reason. And maybe if he didn't make those mistakes, we wouldn't be where we are today.
As well, Burnley have tabled a bid for Harry Wilson. For me, I think I'd like to see Harry Wilson play for Liverpool, just because I think he proved himself last season. And I think as well, I know he wouldn't fit into our squad at the moment, but I would like to see him form a place in the squad at some point in the future. What do we think about that then? What do we think will happen there?
I think, again, it's a tough one because, you know, I sort of agree with you, Grace, in that I don't really feel he's been given much of a chance at Liverpool. You know, again, he's only a young lad. He's got ability. As you say, he proved that in the Premier League last year. You know, some of the goals he scored were absolutely outstanding. But, again, where is he in the pecking order? We haven't seen him this season in pre-season. We haven't seen him in the League Cup tie. You know, we've gone out and spent a lot of money on Diogo Jota, who, for me, obviously, steps above him in the pecking order. So is there any point in having a 20 to 25 million pound asset sat in the under 23 squad when he's too good for that for me? You know, he's proved that he can play in the Premier League. Whether he goes to Burnley or not is another issue, because I don't see that he'll fit in Burnley's style. I don't think he's a man who can play the old 4-4-2 and, you know, get stuck in and get it up to a big centre forward in Chris Wood or Rodriguez or whoever that may be that Burnley decide to play. So it's a bit of a funny one in terms of the move if he does go to Burnley. But I think I will be not so much disappointed, but maybe feel that he's not had his chance at Liverpool if he does go.
I know Aston Villa and Sheffield United are also looking at him, so maybe he'll go to one of them. We'll just have to wait and see. Kieran, another person, Marco Grujic. So the club was set on keeping Grujic, but after he's changed agents, they're now looking to get rid of him and move him on. I think his interests are elsewhere. Obviously, he wants to be playing. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's the way they're going to go. I mean, we did see him in the the League Cup tie against Lincoln. He did score, but it seems to me, you see these players that continuously go out on loan, season after season. It just seems to me that the club just want to hang on to him, but at what cost really? I mean, if, like I say, goes on, you keep going out on loan. I don't think he's going to get that time in the squad, and there's just going to become a time when the player's just going to go, right, enough's enough. I want to make a permanent move somewhere. So again, look at it from the player's point of view. If he's just going to keep getting sent out on loan, then maybe it's the best thing to do is probably just to leave the club.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, for a lot of the younger players, they've obviously got to think about their future. They want to be building game time. So a loan move for them will mean that they're getting football every week. Whereas if they stayed with us, they might get the odd game in the League Cup, but we don't know how long we're going to stay in that. And, it's not secure, is it? So that's probably what they're thinking. So obviously we're playing Aston Villa this week. Just wondering what you think about that. Who do you think will start? We'll start with you, Paul.
I think, again, we've got to go as strong as possible. Last year, for me, Aston Villa was not necessarily the turning point of our season, but one of the most influential games of our season. You're 1-0 down with 3 minutes on the clock or 4 minutes on the clock. And I think at that time, City, was City getting beat at that time maybe, or were winning at that time. And obviously, Andy Robbo then gets the equaliser with a couple of minutes to go. And when the winner goes in, it was one of the best releases of euphoria I've had in a long time. So, but the point of this is that it was a tough game at Villa Park last year. I think, they will make it as tough as they can again. I don't think they'll be as adventurous as maybe some teams, the likes of Leeds and things have been this year. And I think that they'll try and maybe get behind the ball, try and maybe win a few free kicks and things, and maybe try and cause us problems from set pieces. They scored from a set piece last year against us, sort of looking at it from the back post and coming in that way. So I don't think they'll change their style much. Likewise, I don't think we will. Obviously, we've got a set way of playing, which is fast attacking football. For me, I do think it'll be a tough game. I think they've added Ross Barkley as well to their squad, who will be an influential signing for them. Him, obviously, being with his Everton background, will probably want to be involved on Sunday and will want to make his mark against Liverpool like he did for Chelsea. So I think it'll be a tough game. I think we've got to go as strong as we can. I suppose there is a debate around what is our strongest side at the moment, which, reflects the good position that we're in terms of the squad that we've got at the moment. I know we've had debates over the last couple of weeks in terms of who is the best centre-half to partner Van Dijk, and that's a matter of opinion on what we go. But obviously, I think we're going to have to go for as strong as we can, which would be, I will say, the usual back four, inverted commas, and I include Gomez in that. I think midfield, for me, I think Keita may get another chance for the very fact that, as I've mentioned, I think Villa will sit back a little bit. And I think Keita is one of those who can unlock teams who sit back. He can get into little pockets. Obviously, we're not going to have Thiago, who I think would have been perfect for this game, to create that sort of extra little bit of space in the pockets as well, and sort of find maybe through balls, through gaps that other people can't see because of the vision that he's got. We're missing Henderson and his energy. So I think the midfield might be a key part of what we do on Sunday, and it'll be very interesting to see who Jurgen Klopp goes with.
Yeah, and as well, we haven't talked about forwards there, but I was just wondering, Kieran, what do you make of the likes of Jack Grealish against our back four? Do you think he'll score?
I mean, he could do. He's not a bad player. You know, one thing I think about Grealish personally, he does keep hold of the ball, a bit too long. Which I think if you're going to sit back against Liverpool, the way to score against us is, quick counter-attack. You saw it on the Monday night, the way Arsenal just went through us. So when I see Jack Grealish pick the ball, to me, he just holds on to it a bit too long. He's one of those I think he was the most fouled player in the Premier League. So last season, maybe Adama Traore as well. But so for me, I see his game plan being trying to draw those fouls in that opposition third, and then for them to get the set piece the way they scored last season. So I wouldn't be too overly worried about him. From the team, I think providing everyone's fit, we'll go with the same 11 against that started the Arsenal game. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be another good game. As Paul said, last season's game was they pushed us right to the wire, and a game we could have very much lost last season. So looking forward to it. They'll be full of confidence. They've won their first two as well. So yeah, it's gonna really looking forward to this one.
Do you think we can make it 4 wins from 4?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I do always get a bit nervous about away games. I just always get a bit butterflies in the stomach before it. But yeah, I think we should have enough to beat Villa. I mean, obviously a big advantage in the away games is obviously they'd have no home fans. That we're playing under normal conditions. They'd have 40,000 villains behind them, absolutely bumping up the atmosphere right for 90 minutes. So I think we've got that for us. And if we match the standard that we set on Monday, yeah, I think we could be going 4 wins from 4.
What do you think, Paul? Do you think we can take all 3 points?
Well, you would hope so. I think Liverpool's biggest enemy can be ourselves at times. The amount of times that opposition chances come from our own mistakes. I would say, if an opposition has 4 chances against us, possibly 3 of them will be from our own mistakes. So for me, our biggest sort of worry on Sunday is ourselves. And I think we've got to approach the game in the right manner, exactly the same way as we have done the last 2 weeks. I think our attitude against Arsenal and Chelsea over the last 2 weeks has been absolutely spot on. I know we changed 10 of the 11 for Lincoln, and I thought the attitude again was absolutely spot on. And we've got to keep that going. It's not a sprint; it's a marathon. In fact, it's more than a marathon. The way the Premier League is now, and especially this year, with having a condensed fixture list, and there's going to be literally 2 games a week, probably for the majority of the season. So, as we say, it's going to be a tough game, but I think if we approach it in the right way, we can come out with a decent result.
Can I get a score prediction?
Yeah, I think it'll be a tight game. Not a lot of goals. 1-0, 2-1 Reds.
What about you, Paul?
I think it'll be tight. I agree. I hate doing score predictions. I'll take. All I'll say is I'll take any win. I don't care if it's a 95th minute 1-0. I'll take any win.
I'm going to go 2-1 or 3-2 to us. I think it'll be tight, but I do think we'll come away with 3 points. So we're going to finish with our hot topic, which is what is Liverpool's best midfield 3. Obviously, if all players are fit, there's quite a few to choose from, and it's an impossible decision of who gets in. So I'm just wondering who would make your midfield 3, and then I'll give you mine. We'll start with Kieran.
I mean, it's such a good question, isn't it? Just because the depth we've added with Thiago. For me, first man on that team sheet in that midfield, if he's fit, is the captain Jordan Henderson. For me, just the absolute leader of men out there. I know obviously people are going to go on about how he doesn't have the quality of other players, but that that ability to drive people forward, drive them on, and be an actual captain out there, for me, has to be the first man on that sheet. To go with it. I mean, to me, I love Fabinho. I mean, the way he's sitting, in front of Ahmed, sits in front of defence, and the way he's played certainly last season was fantastic. But obviously, you've got Thiago coming in. It really is a toss-up. I'd probably go with just Fabinho from knowing what he does for the team, you know, how fantastic he can be. The third position, I'd probably go with Naby Keita. I mean, I certainly think Klopp, you know, is certainly favouring him more now. He's going back from last season. He started the last 5 Premier League games now, which, you know, he's never done that for us before, and we've won all 5 games. So I love watching him play. I love watching him, you know, the way he runs in that midfield as well. So it obviously you've got Thiago there, Wijnaldum, good players in their own right. But for me, the 3 I'd go with are Henderson, Fabinho, and Keita.
Paul, do you agree with that?
2 of them, yes, I do actually. 1 of them I don't. So, I mean, I think it depends obviously on who the opposition are. But for me, in the very, very biggest games, the midfield 3 that I would go with is Fabinho in the middle, of Henderson on one side and Wijnaldum on the other. I couldn't leave out Wijnaldum. I think his energy that he adds to Liverpool, and the unseen work that he does a lot of the time is absolutely second to none. I think, again, though, it's, as Kieran said, it's such a difficult decision because it shows what a good position we're in the moment with the squad. You know, I've just left out, new signing Thiago there. I've just left out Naby Keita, who Kieran, rightly says has started the last 5 Premier League games and has not looked out of place. He's added something to us that we didn't have before, in a little bit of sort of dynamism, if that's how you say it. You know, we've mentioned Grujic, and I think that's one of his biggest problems, is that, you know, he's fighting with all of these central midfielders for probably 1 of 2 spots, really. So, and that's not to mention then the old security of James Milner when needed. We've seen in the League Cup that Shaqiri even had a little go in there. You've got Curtis Jones coming through. I think central midfield is one of the positions that we are blessed with a lot of talent. But for me, as it stands today, if it was the biggest game of the season coming up tomorrow, let's say, I don't know, Old Trafford or whatever it may be, I would be going for Fabinho in the middle of Henderson and Wijnaldum.
So I'm going to be quite controversial on this one. So Fabinho doesn't make my midfield 3. I think he's too weak on the ball. I think he gets pushed off a lot. I think he gives the ball away a bit too often for my liking. I think he's a bit of a liability. I do rate his forward play, and I think, yeah, he is creative and he does strengthen our midfield, but at the same time, he gives the ball away too frequently for me, so he wouldn't be getting it. My midfield 3 are Thiago, because what he did at Bayern Munich proved he was the mastermind of their midfield. Like, all of their creative play pretty much came from him. He dominated that midfield, and I think if he can bring that to us, then obviously he should definitely start. Keita, for me, I think has really proved himself. Like, Klopp started to give him a few more chances now, so hopefully he'll start this week, and that'll build his confidence and he'll develop even more the more he starts. Jordan Henderson, I rate as a captain, but I think there are other key people in that team who could make a good captain. For example, Van Dijk or, James Milner. I love Milner. I'd put Milner in our midfield, but I just think he's just a bit past his best. Playing him as in defence worked for Klopp the other week, so I think it's a tough one. It is a tough one, but I'm going to go Thiago, Keita and Gini Wijnaldum, because I just think he's so creative and fast in the midfield, and yeah, I think we definitely need him. What do you think of Minamino and players like that? Like, do you think, well, we'll start with Minamino. What did you make of him when he came on the other night? What have you thought of him so far, Paul?
I think, it's took him a little while to settle in, obviously coming in January from a league that is nowhere near the tempo of the Premier League, and I think Klopp has managed him very, very well. He's done that with not just Minamino, he's done that previously with Fabinho, he's done it with Andy Robertson, where he sort of eases the players in. He's been quite prominent in pre-season. Obviously, he played in the League Cup tie, and he's come on a couple of times as a sub in the league. So I think he is going to play his part this season. I think there is games for him. I don't think he's ready to remove Firmino from that central number 9 spot just yet. But I think there will be games where he is needed this season, you know, not just to give Firmino a rest, but to add something slightly different if defences are, you know, are dropping in on Firmino, or if they're passing him on to centre midfielders when Firmino drops deep to pick up the ball. So I think he's settled in quite well. You know, it was a snip at £7 million or £7.5 million. And I think he will contribute this season. I think I'd be happy if he could get double figures in terms of goals and maybe a couple of assists as well.
And Kieran, Paul mentioned before about Xherdan Shaqiri. Do you think that Shaqiri's been given a fair chance at Liverpool?
I'd have to think about the numbers. You know, you do think the amount of game time he's actually had. I just off from the top of my head, I don't think it's that much. I mean, you think of just how much depth we have, though, the amount of players we've got in these positions. But I was there for the couple of seasons ago when we beat Man United 2-1, 3-1, and you know, we scored both goals. Came off the bench, completely turned that game around. So, you know, maybe it'd been nice to see a bit more of him. But obviously, the other game we did really well in was the derby last season at home, the 5-2. But it's, you know, it's, if you give him time, that means you're giving, you know, less players other times. It's, you know, a difficult one for him because there's so many options nowadays. Personally, for me though, I think it's been just about right for him.
In terms of the amount of times that he's come off the bench and changed the game, I know we've just spoken about midfield 3. Would he make your bench then?
And there's so many options. I mean, the one thing he would bring is experience. You know, he's been around for quite a while now. So, but you know, would be the type of player that, obviously, as Paul said, we have 2-3 games a week. So there are injuries. He's certainly going to be a player that, you know, you're not going to be disappointed to see, you know, hanging around there on the bench. To actually get on the bench, for this weekend, probably not. But, you know, if his name was on the bench there, you know, I wouldn't be too disappointed to see that.
And Paul, you said you mentioned Henderson. How much of a key figure do you think he was last season in our midfield?
Massive. I think he, you know, if you look at the games he missed, I think sometimes we struggled for a spark. He's one of them, Henderson, who I think he is noticeable by his absence, let's say. You know, I know he gets a lot of criticism because, you know, he's not got this exotic foreign sounding name. I think he puts so much hard work in, and he for me is probably one of the players who's developed most under Jurgen Klopp. And I think that we really, really do miss him when he's not there, especially last season. Maybe not so much this season. You know, I don't, without sounding horrible, I don't think we missed him on Monday night against Arsenal. But, you know, would I like to see him back in the starting 11 as the games come thick and fast? Yeah, absolutely.
Do you see anyone else in that team becoming a captain type figure for the club?
I think, you know, I describe Virgil as the captain without the armband. He's so influential, the way he talks to players, the way he guides players through games and things. You know, he's obviously the standout candidate. We've just signed Thiago, who for me can dictate play, and, you know, his English is fantastic. And I noticed when he came on against Chelsea, the first thing he'd done, he was telling people what to do. You know, and the game the second half hadn't even kicked off. He was, you know, and he was telling people where to go and what to do and where to stand ready for the kickoff and things. So that, for me, describes what a captain can be. And then if you want to push further forward, well, you've also got the likes of Firmino, who, for me, is so influential on the squad, you know, and the way they speak to younger players and take them under the wing. You know, it's not just what happens in the 90 minutes on the pitch, it's what happens in the dressing room and around the training ground as well. And I think that's why everybody loves Henderson so much. But, you know, should the day come that Henderson is no longer captain or does leave the club, then I think there is quite a lot of candidates there, yeah. Yeah,
completely. And finally, we're calling this the red hot topic this week. I am very disappointed because Liverpool Football Club's new chocolate partner is Cadbury's, and they've been sending chocolate bars to people, fans everywhere, apparently. So one came through my door this week, but it wasn't for me. It was for my mum. So I've not had a chocolate bar off the company. Has anybody else had a chocolate bar off Liverpool?
Yeah, I know my old man's had one, so yeah, he got it through the post and he was like, "Well, what's this?" But yeah, he was made up for it, so sorry to hear about that, Grace. It's absolutely scandalous, isn't it?
What about you, Paul? Have you had one?
Yeah, so we've got 3 season tickets in our family and all 3 have had them. So yeah, we've not had them yet. So when I do eat it, I'll send you the photo.
Oh, thanks for that. Very generous. Thanks for that, Paul. But that's the thing, isn't it? What are you going to do? Are you going to keep it, sell it as a souvenir in years to come, or are you going to eat your chocolate? What are you going to do?
Nah, I think we'll keep ours.
I don't know. We've got 3. I might eat 2 and keep 1.